to help people withstand this persistent inflation. You know, they say inflation is down. It's not down, it's increasing, just not as much maybe as a few months ago, but it's still increasing significantly, and that's a big, big problem. I'm really happy to be joined here today by our legislative leaders. So I have the President of the State Senate, Kathleen Passidomo, is here. And the Speaker of the House of Representatives here in Florida, Paul Renner, is with us. And they're going to be working to make sure that this relief becomes a reality in this upcoming legislative session, which is going to be really, really great. We're also joined by Brittany Morley, who's a mother of 2 from here in Ocala, as well as Jason Halstead, father of 5, soon to be 6. I saw his 5 kids. I saw his wife with a bun in the oven, so they've got their hands full. And he's the executive director for Brothers Keeper Catholic Outreach Ministry right here in Ocala. We're excited about things that Florida's been able to accomplish. I think as many of you know, because you just see it, we're the fastest growing state in the country. And I'm not even asking people to come. I mean, there's some governors that are begging for people to come. Because I understand there's benefits, but there's also challenges. And I think one of the things we recognized in an initiative we did last week, we did a Move America Florida program to help with the infrastructure and speed up infrastructure. You know, some of these places, like on 75, you can have like massive backups. And so those things are all in the hopper to be done, but that would have taken like 20 years. So we're going to put basically $7 billion on top of our Department of Transportation work program to accelerate that. So right here in Central Florida, it's going to make a difference. So you're fastest growing. We've led the nation in net in-migration, I think, every year since I've been governor, certainly in the last few years, because people are leaving states that have poor policies and are poorly run and have high crime, and they're coming to Florida. And oh, by the way, our crime rate is at a 50-year low in the state of Florida. It's not true a lot of these other places. We have one of the lowest per capita tax burdens in the country, and no income tax, and we'll keep it that way, but also some of the other tax relief we've been able to do. We're proud to have gotten that across the nation. We also have one of the lowest per capita debt burdens in the country. Our burden, or our economy in Florida, is over $1 trillion in size, yet the state debt is $20 billion. So that represents a ratio debt to GDP of 1.5%. What does that mean? Well, the United States of America, our whole economy is exceeded by the size of the federal government's debt. And so the debt to GDP ratio for the federal government is 130%, larger than our economy by a country mile. So we have very low debt. We're doing it right, but we also, in our most recent budget, we're seeking to enact a debt reduction program to pay down the debt even more rapidly. So we're already low. We think we can retire some before all the interest kicks in, and that's going to make the state even better. And honestly, sometimes you do want to do debt. If you have projects need to be done and you get low interest rates, sometimes it's better to bond it. So it isn't like having any debt is a bad thing. And honestly, you could make the argument we probably don't even need to worry about because it's so low, but I think we want to stay ahead of the curve. So we're doing that, which is really, really exciting. We're also, and I think every year since I've been governor, but certainly in the last few, #1 in the nation in new business formations. And if you think about that, California is almost twice, they're like 39 million people, we're 22 plus, and yet we have more new business formations than California or any other state, and by a significant margin. So we're proud of that. Last year, we did over 425,000 private sector jobs created in Florida alone. You know, when Biden talks about jobs, a lot of these states that were real lockdown states, they have less people employed today than they did like 3 or 4 years ago. We have way more people employed in Florida than we did 3 or 4 years ago. So a lot of the net job growth nationwide has been the result of Florida and Texas. And so we're helping do our part with that. So, and then also if you look at our surplus, I mean, we finished this past year with like a $22 billion surplus. out of a $109 billion budget. So that's a massive surplus. We've never had anything approaching that in the history of the state of Florida. When I became governor, surplus, all the total reserves, was about $5.2 billion, which was actually viewed as very healthy. People said the state's going well managed, good fiscal. People were happy with that, but we've really taken it to another level. So we're in a situation where we've been able to have, even with low taxes, a massive surplus. So how do you do that? Some of it will just sit there for a rainy day. I think we're prepared for whatever happens in the national economy. You see a lot of layoffs in some industries happening. They had a big jobs number, but a lot of that was because of how they did the population. I don't think that was really as strong as it was portrayed. So you see potential hurdles on the horizon. You see some storms developing, but we're built to be able to handle whatever ends up happening. I think we're going to do better than other states if there is a downturn because of all the energy and excitement people have for Florida. Nevertheless, I think we've tripled our rainy day fund size since I've been governor over the last 4 years, and then we've got billions and billions and billions of more that we'd be able to do. But even with that, it's like, okay, you got a lot of money, what do you do? So we are doing the $4 billion. We're proposing to work with the legislature to do billions to accelerate the infrastructure, and that's just something you need to do when you have a state not only that's growing with new residents, but also people want to visit here. They want to come here, and that's happened a lot of the last few years. So you do that. But we have to take some of this money, a big chunk of it, and return it to taxpayers and give taxpayers savings, particularly when you see inflation the way it's been over the last year and a half to 2 years. 2 years ago, they said there wouldn't be inflation. I think 2 years ago, inflation was like 1.4%. And then what's happened since then, you've had massive spending binges by the federal government, trillions and trillions and trillions that have been printed. Of course you're going to end up seeing inflation. You have policy that is designed to make it more difficult to produce American energy. Of course that's going to contribute to inflation. Biden says we're going to need oil for 10 more years. Now, if you were a company that wanted to produce more and he says you got 10 years to go, it's not worth it to put any money into it at that point. But we all know you're going to need traditional energy much, much longer than that. And you look at the amount of wind and solar, I mean, it's still a very, very small amount. And I can tell you, when we had the hurricane come through in Southwest Florida, get the lights back on, we needed oil and gas to get the lights back on. That's just the reality. So, but that has contributed, his policy has contributed to inflation with energy, and he's tried to mitigate that by just depleting our strategic petroleum reserve. Hopefully there's not some major crisis where we'd have to tap into that, because he was not supposed to use it just to mitigate his own bad policies. That was not the purpose of that, but nevertheless he's depleted it. So you have all these different things that make the cost of living and cost of what you need to buy has gone through the roof in the last 2 years, more than any time I can remember in my lifetime. You probably got to go back to like the late 70s when you saw inflation at this level. So we need to do a lot to be able to give people relief from the inflation so they're able to make ends meet. We already enacted, thanks to the legislature meeting in December, we enacted this massive toll relief program. So everybody who's a commuter, you do a certain number of tolls in a month, they send you a rebate for half of the total cost of your tolls for the month. So that ends up being $500 million for Floridians. We want the tourists to have to pay the tolls, because why would I not? It's like, but if you're commuting and you have to use these roads, we want to reduce that burden on you. So you're going to start seeing very soon, within the next probably week, Floridians are going to start to see, from January, they're going to start to see deductions on their Sun Pass or whatever pass they're using of 50%. And we've calculated that the average commuter in Florida, based on the January figures, is going to save about $500 a year in reduced tolls. And there's some parts of the state, some parts of Central Florida, some parts of South Florida, where people probably save over $1,000 because they have to do so many tolls to be able to do their job. So that's been a huge, huge plus. We're glad that that was able to be enacted. I think the legislature would have supported it in the normal session, but since we had to come in for hurricane relief and we did the property insurance and these other things, we said, let's just get this done so January 1st people can start feeling this relief. So that's really, really exciting. And now we have all these other proposed tax relief items that are going to make a real big difference for Florida families. And we've mentioned this during the campaign. I mentioned it the other day when we were announcing our budget. But one of the things that we're going to propose is a permanent tax exemption on all baby and toddler necessities, diapers, baby clothes, shoes, baby wipes, cribs and strollers. And so if you're a family, I mean, we're going to have new expenses here with their family. You're going to be able to save money, all throughout the year because these are things you have to purchase. You can't really get around it. So we think it's going to make a difference, particularly for families, and we want to be a family-friendly state. I think you've seen a lot of families move here. Used to be people would move to retire. They're still doing that, of course, but the number of families that have moved in over the last 2 years for a variety of reasons, crime, COVID nonsense, some of the stuff in the schools with not recognizing parents' rights, they knew we would do that. So this is really, really good. Included in our permanent relief is going to be permanent sales tax exemption for gas stoves. And they are trying to take away your gas stove, okay? This leaked out. There was blowback, so they kind of backed out. But then you see the documents. They've been working on this in Washington to try to do it. New York just did something that says you can't do gas. Now in Florida, the way Florida was built up, it was built more around electric stoves. More and more people now can get gas lines. I mean, look, I think the gas is better for preparing food, but that's your choice. But why would you try to ban this? It's so irrational, but it shows they are coming for any little thing in your life that they can do. And I think what they want to be able to do is they ultimately want to control the amount of energy you consume. And so if everyone's on one system, they can throttle that or do. I think that's the ultimate vision that they're working to, and that does not fly in the state of Florida. So we're not going to let that happen here. We also have this tax holiday on all the Energy Star appliances. That's in effect now. That will continue, which we think is appropriate. We're also proposing to enact a permanent sales tax exemption for all over-the-counter pet medications because people need to take care of their pets. We know that that can be very, very costly. So that, I think, will make a positive difference. And then we also understand that really the heartbeat of our economy here in Florida are small businesses, family-owned businesses that are owned or operated a lot of times by a single family. We are going to double the savings for small businesses who e-file their taxes. And so that'll save about $141 million across the state of Florida. And look, it isn't like it's going to be $20,000 a business, but every little bit helps, and this will be very, very positive relief, and that will be a permanent change as well. So in addition to all that, we understand that we're going to have inflation certainly for the next year. So we're going to do a number of one-year sales tax exemptions for key items. So you may see some of the stuff up here. We're doing all children's books, children's toys, and youth athletic equipment will be tax-free. You got the bath. Some of that over there. My wife and I will save with that tax. I mean, my son, he's obsessed. I got to buy him all these footballs and this and that. And so it's just kind of the way it goes. But I think that'll be good for families. Another thing that'll be good for families, we've always done a back-to-school tax holiday, sometimes a week, sometimes two. So what we're going to do, we're going to do 4 weeks total, 2 weeks leading up to fall semester and 2 weeks leading into spring semester. So you'll be able to get school necessities free of charge, and that's going to save families about $210 million throughout the state of Florida. We're going to continue with our 2-week disaster preparedness sales tax holiday. We saw what can happen with major storms and the way that this stuff works with the hurricanes, and we would message this. That first 72 hours, it's really about you having the supplies you need, being able, because when it came through Southwest Florida, what's the first order of business? Search and rescue, helping people who may have been stranded on Sanibel, all these other places. You had massive power outages, but it was really those first responders protecting people. So that was kind of the initial thing. Then you start saying, let's get this power back on. And we ended up having, I think it was like 50-some thousand linemen that were stationed in Florida prior to the storm coming. We ended up doing, I think there was like millions of restorations, the fastest restoration after a major hurricane in our history. So it makes a difference, and we were proud of that. But nevertheless, when you get hit by almost a Cat 5, you're not going to have the power turn on 24, 48 hours later. So having those supplies, and then what happened, we were able to bring quicker than we've ever done. We had these pods where people get water. They could get all that stuff, and that worked very, very well. But that is just something that will not be set up within 24, 48 hours because of all the other things that need to do. So you have an opportunity to make those preparations as we get closer to hurricane season. I'm hopeful, and we pray that we do not get dinged like we did last year, but you just got to prepare and assume that it's going to happen. We're also, and I think this is going to be really, really good, for all household items under $25, like detergent, TP, soap, all that stuff, no sales tax for items under $25 for 1 year. We're also, this is maybe my favorite, we're going to do 1 year sales tax exemption for all pet food so that people are able to feed their pets. That gets expensive, so that'll be good. And then finally, anything in addition to 25, obviously, it would be included, but above that, 1 year exemption on oral hygiene products, so that'll be about a $45 million savings for Floridians throughout the state of Florida. We also did something this past summer, the first ever Freedom Week tax holiday. And so it was like outdoor equipment, tickets for like events or museum or whatever, because we want Floridians to enjoy the summer. It can get a little hot, so we want to be able to provide that. So that was popular, but it was kind of a short period of time. So we're going to take that Freedom Summer tax holiday, and we're going to make it 15 weeks throughout the summer. So you will save on outdoor activities, supplies, equipment all summer long, and that'll save Floridians $250 million this summer. So we think if you're a family that is commuting and that is qualifying for our toll relief program and some of these other things, we think a typical family, may be saving over $1,000 with all this tax package. There's going to be some that save a lot more than that because they're doing more tolls or whatnot. And that's going to make a difference, particularly when we are bracing for continued economic headwinds thanks to what's going on in Washington, D.C. And if you look at our budget that we unveiled last week, so yes, we're proposing massive tax relief. We're proposing infrastructure, all that other stuff. Still have a massive surplus. We're able to do record $26 billion for K-12 schools in the state of Florida. We're able to do $1 billion categorical for teacher pay increases. We're able to do $1.1 billion for water quality and Everglades restoration projects. $100 million for Governor's Job Growth Grant Fund to help, and we've done that in Central Florida, where we can help, build a road from like an industrial park so that you can end up moving more product and do job training. Great stuff out of that. Almost $200 million for pay increases for our state law enforcement officers and correction officers, and that's going to be really big. We did a program for starting July 1st to recruit police officers from around the country and to bring more people into the profession from the state of Florida as well. If you do that, you qualify for a $5,000 signing bonus. And so that's been a very effective program, and we're going to continue that program. So we're dedicated another $30 million. So that's July 1st, the program keeps going, and people that are coming could get a $5,000 signing bonus. They've treated the police so poorly in a lot of these cities across the country, and when you come to Florida, yeah, this is an incentive, and yeah, $5,000 is great, But I think more than that, it just sends the signal that Florida appreciates your service. We're a law and order state, and we're going to make sure we stand by you. So this is going to be really, really good, and I want to thank both the leaders who are here today for their support and really doing a lot of very bold things. You know, they got elected in November. They had a special session. We did a bunch of stuff in that December special session. Now they're in another special session, and they're doing a number of different things. They're fortifying our election crimes office that we've used to be able to police voter fraud. They're fortifying our fight against illegal immigration so we can be moving illegal aliens to places like Martha's Vineyard. And they are going to pass a bill that, upon my signature, will officially remove Disney's self-governing status in the Central Florida. So I want to thank them for their efforts. I don't think you've had in recent memory a situation where the legislature has been as busy leading into a full legislative session, which will start second week of March. So my hat's off to them for their hard work, and we look forward to working together these next few months. And at the end of the day, when you're in these positions, you get elected and you deliver results. That's what it's about, is delivering results. And so we have done that over 4 years, and I think the best is yet to come. So Kathleen, why don't you come up and say a few things?
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. Good morning, Marion County. I love coming here. I wish I rode horses because this is horse country. So how can we do this? $2 billion in tax savings because of the policies of this great governor and working with the legislature to making the free state of Florida the place to live, work, retire, raise a family, and spend money. So I want to do a little interactive. We have a list. The governor went through the list, and I hope you were paying attention, of all the tax relief we're going to have. I'll do it real fast, and I want you to raise your hand for your favorite. So we have the permanent exemption on diapers. We have the Freedom Summer, the children's books, the cribs and strollers, children's toys, gas stoves, well, we're not done yet. I want to remind you, household items, athletic equipment, pet food, pet medications, oral hygiene products, medicinal cosmetics, toiletries, holidays, and then the business. So, who's in favor of all the kids' stuff? All right, there's a lot of people. What about the gas stoves? You got a lot there. The school tax holidays. All right. Well, we'll get there. The toothbrushes and all that cool stuff, personal hygiene, the increased savings for electronic filings. That's cool. But pet food and yeah. So I will end with my best friend in the world, my yellow lab Tucker, told me to tell the governor, thank you so much, because now he will get more food to eat because it's cheaper. Thank you all. Have a great day.
All right, Speaker.
Well, it's great to be with you guys. You know, up in Washington, D.C., they're spending a lot of money and really not delivering any results. This governor and our legislature deliver results for the people of Florida. We didn't create the affordability problem, the federal government did, but we're delivering. The governor mentioned toll relief. We've done relief for hurricanes. We've done, Senate President Pasadomo's got a great proposal on making sure we get after our workforce housing to make that more affordable. And in today's bold proposal, we're going to deliver tax relief to every single Floridian. You know, the Washington, D.C. way is their mentality, if you're an elected official, is it's our money to spend the way we see fit. The Florida way, the way the governor sees it, the way we see it in the legislature is it's your money. You paid that money, and all that money that's coming in because the governor kept Florida open because of our success is your money, and it needs to go back to you because you know better how to spend it than any of us ever will. What I love most about this tax proposal is, you know, Florida has, because of the governor's leadership, has a friendly business place, open for business. We've always been the #1 state for veterans. But this really puts our mark as to be the #1 state, the most pro-family state in the nation. And I really believe at the bottom of my heart as a conservative that if you have strong families, a lot of social problems in this country will go away. And if you undermine families, we can't build enough government to manage the chaos. And so this shows the values and priorities of our governor, but it's also the values and priorities of the House, my values, Senate President Pasadomo's values, and those that you elected. And we're going to get after it. We went big last year on tax relief, and we're going even bigger this year. So thank you, Governor. You're really good.
And the speaker's also in the process of pushing through, because people would always ask me, you know, about this, and I'm like, they need to pass it. So he's going to do constitutional carry in the state of Florida. So that'll come, and I've been waiting, and now they're going to deliver. Okay, we want to hear from Brittany Morley. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. Let me preface by stating that in my distal past, I was once a single parent. Therefore, I understand the hardships that often accompany that role. I've been on the receiving end of obtaining services from the Early Learning Coalition, and I understand the stress of being required to miss work due to your child becoming sick and losing that anticipating income. Fast forward to present time, I am now married. My husband and I both own businesses, and I now volunteer my time trying to advocate for the Early Learning Coalition. Through my efforts with them, I've first-handedly seen the impact that these types of incentives have on households. We are extremely grateful that in 2020, Governor DeSantis refused to shut down early learning facilities, regardless of what the rest of the country was doing. Recently, my husband and I lost a good friend of ours, and as a result of that, he has left behind a wife and child. When I think about Governor DeSantis trying to implement permanent tax exemption, I think of people like her. I think of people like my cousins who have adopted children and are currently fostering as well. I think of single-family households like the one I was raised in, or the low-income families doing the best they are capable of. Most importantly, I think of the children of our community. I believe I can speak for everyone when I say that when parents aren't stressed financially, they are more engaged, patient, and present with their children. Regardless of your social class, when parents are saving money, it leverages us into a position that allows us to reinvest that savings right back into our family. Allow me to reiterate by saying this. I am a huge advocate for the permanent child tax exemption for all the reasons previously stated. However, I'm also a huge advocate of people utilizing these incentives in order to create a stronger community, rather than using them as a lifestyle to become complacent. Sometimes the cards we have been dealt in life don't seem fair. However, when we have a support system such as Governor DeSantis and the Early Learning Coalition constantly trying to help leverage us into success, the cards no longer dictate the trajectory of our lives. Governor DeSantis has invested record funding into early childhood education and programs such as VPK, early learning, and high-quality childcare. In fact, some of the best within the nation. We are truly grateful to have our young kids living here in the great state of Florida. Thank you.
Okay, Jason.
Good morning. I want to start by saying thank you, Governor, and all of our leaders for making Florida a great place to raise a family. So thank you. My name is Jason Halstead. My wife, Lena, is here, and these are our 6 kids. Our newest addition is arriving in May, a little girl. We have an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a couple 5-year-olds. So we know how important it is for families to find cost savings on everyday things, especially baby items like diapers and wipes. Our twin boys are 5 now, so we're kind of out of the diaper phase, but at its height, we were spending about $120 every month on diapers and wipes. So we definitely welcome that tax relief because we're about to do it all over again. Now, this relief couldn't come at a more important time. As gas prices, food costs, and inflation keep rising higher, we are adjusting and we're making sacrifices in our family to manage. But I know how blessed we are because I've seen the real needs of people firsthand and the harm that all these soaring prices are causing. See, I work full-time at Brothers Keeper, which is the outreach ministry of Blessed Trinity Catholic Church here in Ocala. And I'm seeing many, many individuals and families who can't make their ends meet just by changing their budgets. These price increases we're seeing are leaving them without necessities. In fact, if you compare 2021 to 2022 at Brothers Keeper, we saw our demand for everything double. That includes food, diapers, clothing, hygiene items, and more. We attribute that in part to the growing population, but primarily this increased request for services is directly connected to rising inflation in the struggling economy. The biggest problem with all of this is that every time inflation goes up, it makes it harder for families to save. So when life throws a family a curveball, a car breaks down, somebody gets sick, job loss, they can't afford it. A simple problem throws families into crisis. If we can start putting more money back into their pockets, I know that this relief will have a lasting and immediate effect and provide relief for families that are on the margins who are struggling to stay afloat. While we're grateful at Brothers Keeper that we can help with our efforts, I know that tax reform will make a big difference to those that we serve and everyone who donates to us so that we can all work together to assist those in need. As a family and as a charity, we really appreciate what the governor is doing to provide relief for families. Thank you, Governor. May God continue to bless you with wisdom and courage.
Thank you. Well, we've got a lot of work to do, but I'm looking really, I'm excited about what the next few months has in store, and I think that there's going to be a lot of wins that are going to be delivered for the people of Florida. So sit back and enjoy what we do the next few months. Okay, what do we got?